Have you ever stood across from someone and felt an undeniable connection so intense, so immediate, that it seemed like destiny itself had intervened? Why do people fall in love with you? Is it the way you smile, the things you say, the stories you carry in your eyes? Or is there something more, something invisible and ancient pulling the strings behind the scenes of your love life? Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychological minds of the 20th century, believed that love is never random. It is not merely chemistry or chance. Instead, it is a mirror, a powerful, unconscious reflection of what we need to see in ourselves. People fall in love with you for only two profound reasons, and neither of them has to do with the surface-level traits you've spent years perfecting. In this video, we will journey deep into Jung's timeless insights about the hidden mechanics of love projection, the anima and animus, and the mysterious architecture of the psyche that decides who we are drawn to and why. Let's begin. Love, not an accident, but a revelation. We like to romanticize love as spontaneous, a lightning strike, an accident of the soul. One moment we're fine, and the next we're captivated, caught in an emotional whirlwind we can't explain. But for Jung, love is not magic. It's not chaos. It's psychological architecture, emotion. What feels like serendipity is, in truth, a silent map being followed, one drawn by the unconscious mind long before we ever meet the other person. Behind every instant connection lies a structure. Behind every unexpected romance, a pattern. We are drawn not at random, but with purpose, often toward those who represent what our soul is missing. Projection, the invisible script we cast onto others. Here is where Jung introduces one of his most powerful ideas, projection. Each of us carries within ourselves hidden images, parts of our personality that have been repressed, lost, or left undeveloped. These fragments don't die. They live in the shadows of the unconscious, whispering quietly, waiting for a face to project themselves onto. And then we meet someone, a stranger at first, but somehow they feel oddly familiar, irresistible, magnetic. Why? Because they carry something we long to become or secretly believe ourselves to be. Let's take an example. Imagine someone who has spent their life being emotionally cautious, measured, withdrawn, perhaps even afraid of vulnerability. When they meet someone who is bold, emotionally expressive, and unapologetically free, the attraction can feel overwhelming. But it's not truly about that person. It's about the part of the self that has remained dormant for too long. The boldness, the emotional freedom, these qualities strike a chord deep within. They resonate. They represent potential. Love, in this case, is not admiration, it's reclamation. Reason one, you represent something they lack. Jung believed this was the first reason someone falls in love with you. You represent a quality, a way of being, or an emotional presence that the other person has not yet developed. You are not just attractive, you are symbolic, a living emblem of what is missing. This is why opposites often attract. The logical are drawn to the intuitive, the introverted to the expressive, the stable to the wild, because in you, they see a possibility of becoming whole. But there's a danger. If the person does not realize that what they admire in you is something they can also cultivate within themselves, the relationship becomes one-sided. You stop being a partner and become a lifeline, a symbol to cling to, not a human to grow with. And when reality breaks the illusion, as it always does, love fades. The once revered traits become frustrating. The fantasy unravels under the weight of your human flaws. That's the peril of projection. Loving a mirror, not a person. My reflection. Have I been a symbol in someone's story? At this point, allow me to reflect personally. Looking back, I realized that many of the people I've attracted weren't really seeing me. They were seeing hope, a solution, a missing color on their emotional palette. And I've done the same. I've fallen for people who awakened something sleeping in me. At first, it felt like magic, but eventually, the spell wore off, and I was left not with the person, but with the question, what part of myself did I mistake them for? This is not failure. It's revelation. Every projection is a lesson disguised as a lover. The anima and animus, ancient blueprints of the soul. But Jung's exploration of love does not stop at projection. He went deeper, introducing a concept even more mysterious, the anima and animus. These are archetypal images of the opposite gender that live deep within every psyche. For Jung, every man carries an unconscious image of the feminine, the anima, and every woman carries an unconscious image of the masculine, the animus. These are not just personal preferences. They are ancient symbolic figures, blueprints shaped by childhood, culture, myth, and the entire history of humanity. They are created by our earliest interactions with caregivers, refined by the stories we absorb, and store within us as emotional maps. And one day we meet someone who fits. The match is uncanny. The resonance is overwhelming. We feel like we've known them forever. The connection is not rational, it's archetypal. It feels like destiny, a soulmate, something eternal. But Jung warned us, this is not fate. It is your psyche seeing its internal architecture reflected in another human being. And that is the second reason someone falls in love with you. Reason 2, you awaken a powerful unconscious image. When someone falls in love with you because you resemble their inner anima or animus, it isn't your personality or even your actions that create the bond. It's your symbolic alignment with an internal image they've carried for years. You stir something ancient inside them. You become a trigger for archetypal memory, not because of who you are, but because of what you represent. This explains why love can feel irrational, why it can move at lightning speed, why we might say things like, it just feels right, or, I feel like I've known you forever. But here's the twist. The moment you begin to show your humanity, your fears, your flaws, your contradictions, the image begins to break. The fantasy starts to fall apart, and what once felt divine becomes confusing. This is inevitable collapse of archetypal projection. No real human can live up to an unconscious ideal forever. Reflection. We are all carriers of meaning. Love, through Jung's lens, is far more complex and far more beautiful than the fairy tales we've grown up with. It's not about two halves completing each other. It's about two psyches mirroring what they each need to become whole. The people who fall for you might not be falling for you. They are falling for their own growth, for what you awaken in them. And the same is true for you. We fall for those who carry the keys to our next evolution, whether they open us up or shatter us completely. As we move deeper into Jung's vision of romantic connection, we begin to see love not as a simple matter of desire or compatibility, but as a mirror to the soul's journey, a sacred dance between projection and reality, potential and perception. Let's return to where we left off. The moment someone falls in love with you may not be about you at all. It might be about what you awaken in them, a dormant part of their psyche that you unknowingly embody. And the reverse is true. You may fall deeply for someone because they reflect something precious, painful, or profoundly unrecognized within you. This is not manipulation. This is not deception. This is a natural design of the unconscious mind seeking wholeness. The sacred illusion, the power and peril of projection. Projection, when understood deeply, is both a gift and a trap. Jung teaches us that when a person becomes a screen upon which we cast our deepest longings, our unhealed wounds, our forgotten dreams, our idealized images, we don't see them clearly. We see a version of them shaped by our psyche. That's why those first stages of falling in love can feel like destiny, a chemical high, an inexplicable knowing. But beneath the surface, what we're actually experiencing is a self encountering itself in symbolic form. This is why lovers often describe each other in mythic terms. She completes me, he makes me feel whole. These are not lies, they are psychological truths. But if we remain unconscious of this process, we risk confusing the symbol with the soul, the fantasy with the person. And as the reality of the other emerges, their contradictions, vulnerabilities, limitations, we may feel betrayed. The ideal shatters, the projection crumbles, and what remains is a choice: to truly love a real person or to flee in search of another fantasy. Anima and animus, the inner love within. Jung went even further in his exploration of love with two of his most powerful concepts, the anima and animus. These archetypes are the personifications of the opposite gender within our psyche. Every man, Jung said, carries an unconscious feminine figure, the anima, and every woman carries an unconscious masculine figure, the animus. These are not merely personal preferences or social constructs. They are psychological blueprints formed by early experiences and cultural myths. Your first emotional bond with a parent, your cultural exposure to masculinity or femininity, your personal experiences, all of these shape your inner image of the other. And one day, you meet someone who seems to match this inner image, not necessarily in physical appearance, but in essence. Suddenly, you're captivated. You feel like you've known them forever. You say things like, "It just feels right. I don't know why, but I'm drawn to them." This is not a cosmic accident. It's your psyche recognizing an internal pattern, a forgotten script reawakened, a myth being reborn. But there is danger here too, because a person you've fallen for may not truly be what you believe. They are real, but the version of them you see is colored by your inner lover. If you do not recognize this, you'll expect them to fulfill a role they never signed up for. You'll demand from them not love, but validation of your fantasy. And eventually, that burden becomes unbearable for both of you. The collapse of the fantasy and the birth of real love. This moment, the collapse of the projection, is painful. It is often the turning point in a relationship. You wake up one day and realize, this person is not who I thought they were. The glow is gone. The euphoria fades. You begin to see their flaws, their edges, their humanity. And this is where many relationships end. The disillusionment becomes too much. You grieve not the loss of the person, but the loss of the image. But Jung would argue this is not a failure. It is the beginning of real love. Because now, for the first time, you are not in love with a reflection of your unconscious. You are seeing the person as they are, and they are seeing you. Here, love becomes a choice. A courageous, conscious, sometimes difficult choice to engage with another human being in their full complexity, not as an answer to your wounds, but as a companion on your journey. This is the path of individuation, Jung's term for the lifelong process of becoming whole. And love, when conscious, becomes one of the most powerful tools for that journey. The real reason people fall in love with you. So why do people fall in love with you? Because you embody one of two things. You represent something they lack. You symbolize an energy, a quality, a way of being they unconsciously desire to integrate. You are the mirror that shows them what they could become. You awaken a powerful inner image. You resemble a psychological figure, a soul imprint that has lived in their unconscious for years. You activate an inner myth that they may not even be aware of. In both cases, the feeling is intense, magnetic, transformative. But it's not necessarily about you. It's about what you mean to their psyche. And the same is true when you fall in love with someone else. The attraction might not be about who they are. It may be about what they reflect back to you. A piece of your story, a piece of your shadow, a piece of your becoming. This isn't romantic in the usual sense, but it is deeply beautiful because it means that every love, no matter how brief or chaotic, carries the seeds of your inner evolution, the lesson hidden in every relationship. Once we realize this, our entire view of love changes. We stop blaming others for not living up to our ideals. We stop seeking perfection in another. We begin to ask, what is this relationship showing me about myself? That ex who broke your heart? Maybe they reflected your abandonment wound. That partner who felt like home? Maybe they mirrored your inner child's longing to be seen. That short-lived crush that changed your life? Maybe they awakened your potential, then stepped aside so you could pursue it alone. Every relationship, Jung would say, is a mirror and a message. The ones that shake us the most are often the ones that bring us closest to who we are meant to become, a personal reflection. As someone who spent years studying psychology and watching these dynamics unfold, I can say this. Jung's vision of love is not cynical. It is compassionate, and it is liberating. It invites us to stop expecting others to complete us. Instead, It asks us to become curious about our patterns, our projections, our emotional echoes. And in doing so, we reclaim the power of love as something that doesn't just happen to us, but something that grows within us. When you understand this, you become less reactive and more reflective. You stop falling into the same traps. You begin to see love not as a need to be filled, but as a mirror to be looked into honestly, humbly, bravely. If this video stirred something within you, if it helped you understand your relationships in a new light, then take a moment to reflect. Who in your life has served as a mirror? Which relationships felt like destiny but turned out to be lessons? And most importantly, what part of yourself are you ready to reclaim now that you see the truth behind love's illusions? If this resonates with you, share your experience in the comments. Let's open up a space where we can learn from each other's journeys. Don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content on psychology, the unconscious, and the soul's evolution. And if you'd like to support the channel, consider sharing this video or leaving a thanks. It helps more than you know. Remember, the greatest love story is the one between you and your becoming.